Picture this. You boot up the game for the first time. On the screen, not just a pretty backdrop, a living, breathing system. Deserts blanketed in crystalline formations that physically cannot exist on Earth. They grow out of rock faces like trees, but made of stone and light. Industrial zones with architecture that fuses hard sci-fi with something ancient, like someone built a factory on top of the ruins of a lost civilization and never bothered to clean up the evidence. Wind moves through the grass. Clouds cast shadows that slide across the ground in real time. Smooth, no pop-in. Exactly the way it looks when you watch a field on a cloudy afternoon. Animals react to your movement. They don't just stand there, they're alive. And you haven't pressed a single combat button yet. Then a fight breaks out. A team of 4 operators. Instant switching between them. One button, and you're in a completely different character, with a different rhythm, a different feel. Abilities that chain into each other. A freeze that shatters on contact with a lightning strike. A speed boost that doubles the next hit's damage. And at some point, when you start to feel how combos flow, when you're reading a fight in real time, when 3 seconds make or break everything, it stops being a mobile game. It becomes a symphony, and you're the one conducting it. Then you build a base. You lay down conveyor belts, plan out routes, set up automated production lines that move, process resources, ship materials on a tight schedule, all without you touching a thing. And at some point, you just stop. You don't play. You watch. You watch the system run itself. Like a Swiss watch that you wrote the manual for. Arknights, Enfield. That's what it is, from the inside. But today I want to tell a different story. Not about the gameplay, but about how this game even exists. About a company that rebuilt their product 3 times before launch, while the rest of the industry was shipping broken patches. About how a Chinese anime game ended up on the Apple stage next to Tim Cook, and at the Game Awards next to One Republic. Let's start with something they don't usually show the public. The thing that separates studios that make games from studios that actually understand why trust matters. 2024. Hypergriff opens the technical test for Enfield. The first players jump in, and they see. The foundation is there, the potential is obvious, but it's nowhere near finished. Combat needs polish. Cutscenes need a rethink. Some mechanics need to be rebuilt from scratch. Players say exactly that, openly, on forums, on social media, in long, detailed posts with screenshots and comparison charts. The studio reads every word, methodically, carefully, and then they rebuild. Early 2025, closed beta, another test. Another round of real player feedback, not internal QA. And more changes. Reworked cutscenes, rebalanced combat, an entire new region that didn't exist in the previous build. Not a patch slapped on top. Not a, we fixed a few bugs in the patch notes. Actual surgery. Open it up, take it apart, put it back together differently. November 2025, another closed beta. By this point, the game looks like a completely different product compared to what players saw in that first test. Better in every single detail. Not because they were done, because they listened to real people 3 times, and rebuilt 3 times. Stop and think about that. When was the last time you saw that from a major studio? Cyberpunk 2077 launched and needed a full year of patches just to become something close to what was promised at E3. CD Projekt Red apologized publicly, issued refunds, got the game pulled from the PlayStation Store, and still only got a second chance because of a Netflix show. Battlefield 2042 shipped so raw that the franchise still hasn't fully recovered its reputation. And this is from a studio with 30 years of history. No Man's Sky at launch was so far from what was promised, it became a meme. Hello Games spent 2 years in silence fixing what they'd already sold people. The list keeps going. Anthem, Fallout 76, Skull and Bones. Every single year, the games industry volunteers new names for that hall of shame. Hypergriff did something old-fashioned. They opened the game before launch, listened to real players, and rebuilt. 3 times. Not for PR, not for headlines. Just because it was the right thing to do. And only after the 3rd cycle did they let it out into the world. January 22nd, 2026. Simultaneous global launch. PC, PlayStation 5, iOS, Android. No China first. Everyone else 6 months later. The entire world, together, same day, every platform. 88% positive reviews on OpenCritic. Technically stable. Looks exactly like what they showed. In 2026's gaming industry, that combination is rare enough that journalists noted it as an achievement on its own. Now, let's talk about how the whole world found out this game existed, and why it happened in a way nobody saw coming. September 2025. Apple Park, Cupertino, California. Tim Cook walks onto the stage. The new iPhone 17 Pro. Billions of people watching online, from Tokyo to Warsaw, from Nairobi to São Paulo. Apple knows the value of every second of that stream. Every product on that stage goes through a selection process the public almost never hears about. No paid placements. No, we wrote you a check, now show us. Just one question. Is this the single best example of what your technology can do right now? The new iPhone 17 Pro's headline feature: hardware ray tracing on the A19 Pro chip. A technology that just a few years ago was exclusive to desktop GPUs, costing thousands of dollars. Now it fits in your pocket. And to show it off, Apple picks a video game. Not Call of Duty. A franchise with 20 years of history. Not Resident Evil. The iconic Japanese horror series that everyone knows. Not a proven blockbuster from Sony or Microsoft. The most important tech presentation of the year, and the game on screen is a Chinese anime title. Arknights, Enfield, on an iPhone, with real-time ray tracing. The room goes quiet. People start turning to each other and whispering, "Wait, is that a mobile game?" You have to understand what that moment means. Apple controls every centimeter of its public image with surgical precision. When Apple puts something on that stage, it is not a partnership. It is not a sponsorship deal. It is a verdict. We believe this is the best in its category on the planet right now. Enfield passed that test. Out of everything that existed in the fall of 2025, they picked this game. But that was only the first act. December 2025, the Game Awards. The Oscars of the gaming industry. The biggest annual gaming event in the world. Millions of viewers online. Announcements from the biggest studios on Earth. And then, OneRepublic walks out on stage. Not a song dropped under a trailer montage. Not a licensed track from an album. A live performance. The full band. Jeff Keighley standing right there. And they play Give Me Something, a song written exclusively for Enfield. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Not on streaming platforms, not in any other context. It belongs to this game. OneRepublic isn't just a name. Counting stars. 5 billion streams on Spotify, and one of the most recognizable intros of the last decade. Apologize. A Grammy nomination. I Ain't Worried. 3 billion streams after Top Gun, Maverick, where it became part of a cultural moment, rather than just a soundtrack credit. This is a global cultural force, not a niche act, not a regional band. There's a famous marketing moment everyone talks about. When Nike signed Michael Jordan in 1984, it wasn't just a sneaker deal. It was a statement about what the brand is, what it values, what world it sees itself belonging to. When OneRepublic writes an exclusive song for an anime gacha game from a Chinese studio, that is Hypergriff making that same statement. Loud and clear. We are not a mobile game that wants to grow up. We are a global cultural project, and we're just getting started. 30 million pre-registrations before launch. 30 million people who heard that message and answered. But where did this company even come from? And why did they have the nerve to make that leap when they could have just stayed comfortable where they were? 2019. Hypergriff releases Arknights, a mobile tower defense game. You place fighters on a grid to stop enemy waves rolling in along set paths. Sounds mechanical, almost like a puzzle. But inside, Arknights is a staggeringly dense, meticulously written universe. People infected by oropathy, a disease that crystallizes the body from the inside out. Nations locked in permanent war over resources and survival. Operators with personal tragedies, internal contradictions, and dialogue. You stay up past midnight reading because you cannot stop. 100 million downloads. Live concerts with full symphony orchestras. Cosplay communities across dozens of countries on every continent. Fan art, fan fiction, fan events. Arknights didn't just become a popular game. It grew into a culture. A living, breathing space where people don't just play, they live inside it. And then Hypergriff did something most companies in their position would never have dared to do. Something that looked irrational from a business standpoint. Too risky, too expensive, too far from what was already working. Imagine a bicycle manufacturer. Things are great. A popular brand, a loyal audience, steady revenue, a market they understand cold. And then one day they announce, "We're done making bicycles. We're building our own rocket. We're not buying a ticket from NASA. We're not ordering parts from Boeing. We're doing it ourselves, from scratch. Because we want to reach a place no bicycle can take us." That is exactly what the Enfield announcement looked like in the spring of 2022. A full, three-dimensional action RPG with an open world, a deep combat system, and base building. From a studio whose only major product was a two-dimensional mobile tower defense game. This was not a logical evolution. It was a leap. And to prepare the world for that leap, they went on tour. Anime Expo in Los Angeles, the biggest anime convention in North America. 20,000 people at the Enfield booth on the first day alone. A live playable demo. Lines that didn't thin out for hours. People played, took photos, and went home and told everybody. Japan Expo in Paris. 15,000 booth visitors. And here's the detail that matters. A French audience that obsesses over Japanese pop culture. And the headliner of the event is a Chinese game. Not just present, the headliner. Gamescom in Cologne, Tokyo Game Show, all of 2024 and 2025. A constant, unbroken presence at every single venue where gamers gather. Hypergriff wasn't just showing a game at conventions. They were methodically building one feeling in the mind of every audience they touched. Something massive is coming, and you do not want to miss the moment it arrives. And just when you think you have the full picture, here comes the detail that flips everything upside down. Question: what engine is Enfield built on? After everything you've just heard, Apple, OneRepublic, 3 rounds of beta testing, console-level visuals, you're probably thinking Unreal Engine 5. Or some proprietary in-house engine, built with an unlimited budget by a team of 500 engineers. Unity. Yeah, that Unity. The engine that in gaming circles gets associated with 3 things. Indie projects on itch.io, mobile games with ads that pop up every 5 minutes, and the punchline? Yeah, you can tell it's Unity. The engine that developers usually either apologize for or hide for as long as possible. Hypergriff didn't hide it. And here's why that's not a weakness. It might actually be the most interesting part of this entire story. They took Unity and essentially built a new engine inside of it. They kept the core framework and the development tooling, where Unity genuinely excels. Everything else, the graphics system, the lighting model, the shadow pipeline, the data architecture, they rewrote from scratch, built entirely for their own needs. The best analogy: imagine you bought a stock SUV off the lot. Then, you methodically replaced the engine, the suspension, the body panels, the wheels, all the electronics, and kept only the frame and the steering wheel. Technically, it's the same vehicle that left the factory, but it runs twice as fast, handles terrain the original could never touch, and looks like a concept car from an auto show. All that's left of the original is the steering wheel. What did that get them in practice? Characters modeled at 80 to 100,000 polygons each. Roughly 1.5 times the detail density of most games at this scale. Dynamic shadows that compute correctly at long distances from the camera, something most engines just disable by default because it's too expensive to run. Hundreds of moving parts across industrial-based structures with real-time dynamic lighting, spinning conveyor belts, lights that shift with the time of day, steam, shadows cast by machinery in motion. After launch, gaming journalists compared Enfield's visual level to console AAA blockbusters. That comparison held up. Nobody just expected that under the hood it was Unity. The same Unity everyone had been joking about. The lesson here is simple and it matters. An engine is a tool. A hammer doesn't build houses. People with a hammer and enough stubbornness do. The question was never which tool you picked. The question is how far you're willing to push it. And whether you stop when most people would say that's good enough. And here's the part that matters most. The reason this whole story was worth telling. There's an old stereotype. Stubborn as rust on old iron. There's Western AAA, with the ambition, the $100 million budgets, the technology that moves the industry forward, and the status of being real games. And then, there are mobile games from the East, with gacha, microtransactions, anime girls on the cover art, and the dismissive label. That's for people who don't play real games. 2 separate worlds, 2 separate audiences, 2 completely different standards. Arknights. Enfield is an argument against that stereotype. One of the loudest and most undeniable arguments the gaming industry has seen in years. Yes, it's free to play. Yes, it has gacha mechanics, the randomized character pull system that mobile game critics have learned to hate on instinct. But also, a technical level that journalists compare to console AAA. A marketing campaign that outclassed major publishers with decades of experience in scale and execution. A PlayStation 5 release, not a mobile port. A full native console version, OneRepublic at the Game Awards, Apple's main stage at their annual global keynote. Hypergriff did something more than release a good game. They reframed the question. The question is no longer whether it's mobile or not, whether it's anime or not, whether it came from an Asian studio or not. The question is ambition, the willingness to rebuild 3 times when the first and second versions aren't good enough yet. The decision to spend a year hitting Anime Expo, Gamescom, and Tokyo Game Show, and not stop until every audience felt it. Something massive is coming. The stubbornness to rewrite half an engine nobody believed in and push it to the point where journalists put it next to the biggest blockbusters in the world. The line between mobile games and real games didn't just blur. It no longer exists as a meaningful category. Not because someone issued a decree, but because products appeared that make the whole division look absurd just by existing. Enfield is one of the reasons why. And if you think this is an exception, that one bright moment doesn't change anything, look at the timeline. Apple selects this game for their main stage, the Game Awards, a live One Republic performance. A simultaneous global launch across every platform. 88% positive reviews on OpenCritic, 30 million pre-registrations. That's not luck. That's the result of a system. A system where every single decision, from the first beta test to the choice of engine, served one idea. We are building something that has never existed before. And here's my question to you. Not a rhetorical one, a real one. Looking at all of this, Apple and Tim Cook, One Republic at the Game Awards, 3 full rebuild cycles before launch, a year of touring the planet, Unity under the hood with a custom engine built inside it, a simultaneous global release on 4 platforms. What do you think? Is this a one-time thing? A brilliant but isolated moment where everything lined up? Right game, right time, right luck? Or is this the beginning of a new era? One where it doesn't matter what corner of the world a studio comes from, what tool they built their game with, or what genre they work in. Where the only thing that counts is how stubbornly you refuse to quit, and how honestly you listen to the people you're making it for. Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to hear what you think, especially if you see it differently than I do. Subscribe to the channel. Every week we break down stories like this one, about games, about the companies that make them, and about the moments that reshape the industry from the inside. See you in the next one.